Let's Talk Small Business, the real talk, no BS podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to grow and actually enjoy the ride. I'm Mitchell Wilson. Let's get into it. Ben, welcome aboard. Let's Talk Business. Introducing yourself, Ben Brownie. Now, we met probably about 20 odd years ago. I was at the car company doing finance there. And of course, you were a young buck, I guess, like myself as well at the time. But now you are the head honcho, co-owner of the car company, one of the largest, if not the largest, car dealerships in the top of the South Island in New Zealand. Would that be right?
Mitch Wilson, what an intro. Thanks for having me.
When it comes to it, I'm really keen to hear about your story in business, because before we got on here, we just had a bit of a chat, and it was really amazing from where you first started to where you are now. Love to hear the story. I'm sure we'll take some cool learnings along the way and talk business. So, Ben, where did it all start?
Well, it probably actually started when we were having family dinners and friends of the family used to come around. And then Dad was always one to be putting on a bit of a show at home and having a bit of a laugh. And he knew that probably one of us had to go follow in his footsteps and be a car dealer. So he always used to pretty much promote it, that he would ask me in front of everyone, "What are you going to be when you grow older?" And I think there was one thing ingrained into me that I couldn't not say, and that was a car dealer. So,
and did you actually want to be? Is that what you wanted to be when you were younger? Like that?
I was a pretty driven little tennis player that picked up a racket at the age of 5, and that, I wanted to be Andre Agassi. He was my idol growing up. So I was playing tennis every day until you got to that time when everything else came into play, where you needed some money and and other priorities came along in life. But I loved my sport growing up, and I think that was a really good way to make you learn a lot of things along the way about how to get somewhere and how to work hard and how to practice and work on yourself as a person. So I think sport was probably one of the biggest assets which grew into working hard in business as well. Yeah,
that's really cool. And yeah, if I was probably to think back at all the successful entrepreneurs that I know, they all had some kind of drive, whether it was out on the field or maybe even the chess club, who knows. But yeah, I agree with you. That grounding at that young age, sport, discipline, all the rest is great, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The sport, any coach or any leader, when you're learning as a youngster or at any age, it gives you guidance, it gives you drive. You learn some disciplines to turn up on time, and it might be you're there for an hour at that practice, is to give everything you can in that hour, and not skive off and have a cry when it gets tough.
So actually, talking about that young age, you bring it up. How were you at school as a teenager, high school? Were you an academic, or what were you?
No, I definitely wasn't the academic. On the school reports, there was a common phrase that came up that Ben could do better, potentially.
Try harder.
Yeah, if he less social, less talk, less banter in the classroom. But always had the potential, but never quite got there academically. So, although I turned up to the classes and put in the best effort I could, and I think I did my homework most of the time, I definitely wasn't one with any natural academic ability, or maybe I just wasn't completely. I was probably in my tennis. I was probably in my tennis world, actually. I was thinking about lessons while I was in class.
Okay, so you brought it up. Let's give a shout out to Paul Brownie. So, of course, he had car dealerships right throughout your young age. Was that the case or not?
Yeah, I think it was just the fact that he was in sales from a young age himself, growing up in a small town, small region on the coast. He had a second hand shop, so furniture and appliances and things. So I think he just had it a bit in his personality and charisma that he loved selling, buying and selling. That was his thing. And then he carried that on into selling cars. I think it was Blackwell's Holden in Christchurch back in the day. That's where he got his start, and then he further on went over to Sydney after working in cars in Christchurch for a long time. He worked for Ford Parramatta Sydney, or as he likes to remind us every time, and how good he was at it. And so that's, he spent probably 10 years over in Australia before he came back to Nelson, and then had his own dealership selling cars. So yeah, you could definitely say that I picked up that drive and sales side of things from him and got a bit of guidance. So yeah, no, it was good start.
How would you class yourself as a salesperson now?
As a salesperson now, I would, because day to day, I'm wearing a few different hats in a day to get tasks done. I would say now I'm probably not the same salesperson I was when I necessarily started, because that's all I was doing is predominantly selling cars, and technology and the tools were a bit different back then when I started. But now I think I enjoy dealing with people that I've dealt with for years, repeat business, and probably a little more toned down now than what I was when I started. I think
more relationship based. Yeah.
Yeah. Back then I was super, probably over the top energetic. So looking a little bit toned down.
I can actually remember, it's just come to my mind here. It may have been your old man. I was standing there and he said, "What are you doing? Chase off down to the street, down there, chase that guy down the street." And you did. You literally got up and chased someone down the street to try and make a sale.
Yeah. There was a car park. I was trained to go out to the car park if someone was looking at a car of ours and they hadn't walked on the dealership, or pulling over the side of the road and someone was maybe even looking at another car at another dealership. It was just, go.
Okay. So in sales, let's take us through your journey. Where was your first job?
Yep. So first job was working at combined dealership, really, with Dad and Shane Drummond. So in little Halifax Street, 19 Halifax Street, just a small little branch next to the supermarket there, next to a gym as well. So it could only hold probably about 20 vehicles at most, so really small. And when I started there, I would have been one of two people on the branch, so you were literally doing everything yourself, so not like it is now. But I would have been in the back shed grooming cars, and then probably wearing some clothes which looked a bit better than what a groomer would wear now. And then I'd pop out if I heard something, or I got a call from upstairs saying someone's on the yard, and then I'd be out there giving it my best to learn how to sell a car or learn about cars. And then I would be calling upstairs to whoever could help or whoever was nearby and calling for guidance on that. And then I'd be back down in the grooming bay shed grooming again. So it was a jack of all trades by learning back then. But I had, I guess, I reckon the apprenticeship in selling cars in the first 6 months to a year, you're really finding out if you've got that drive, what it takes, and you're having every scenario thrown at you. And I think the hardest thing I probably found back then is I got really, I took everything emotionally to the next level, because when I started, I didn't quite know what the stereotype was for a car salesperson. It was you're a shark, or no one was going to trust you. So dealing with different people, whether it was positive or negative, and all of the different age groups and what some of the reactions you could have to a car salesperson, because it was back then, it was like, oh, I can't trust you, can't believe you, what you're saying is not true. So I really struggled with that in the first probably 6 months, but I enjoyed dealing with people. I didn't know everything about cars, but I enjoyed dealing with people, and you could learn the car side of it. So, yeah, I would have thought the first 6 months to a year, the first few weeks, I remember when you're not selling a car at all and thinking, shit, am I going to be any good at this, or what? Maybe I'm in the wrong industry. But I think it was just all of the ups and downs and the learnings of if you did something back then it was very harsh learnings. This is how it's done from the past, and things have changed a lot now, but it was very much so back then. This is how it's done, follow that, and if you don't do it, you won't do it a second time. So it was good disciplines.
Do you think the perception, you've mentioned the perception back then of car sharks or whatever it may be, do you think that perception's still out there?
Yeah, I think it is, but it's probably, I think, just a lot more seen in a lot of industries now. I think people pick up on your honesty and the way you go about your business in any industry. I think the car industry is still got fly-by-nighters or people that come and go, but the good companies and industries that have been around for a while and support the community and do good business, I think the ones that I don't think the ones that talk, as I call it, bullshit, will be around for too long, because you just don't end up getting that repeat business or people come back and that trust. So yeah, it's still there a little bit, I think, but not quite like what it used to be. Yeah.
I mean, we're all prevalent now to, I guess, let's just call it social media, Google reviews or whatever it may be. So we all need to do a great job. It's too easy to hurt that reputation, which is, I guess, a lot.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so you mentioned before you got this job, Combined Yard, that was also owned by Shane Drummond, of course, who is now your co-owner in this large business. So, like, your trajectory of being in this industry, like, what's it looked like from where you started grooming cars to where you are now?
Yeah, so I was back when Shane Drummond and Dad had the business together, and then not long after I went and worked for Shane Drummond solely. Shane was sort of the go forward dealership and person in the industry who was really punching hard, driven, and wanted to grow a company. So that's why I aligned with him, because I was also wanting to do the best I could with my career. So that's how I ended up joining up with Drummy, as known as Shane Drummond. But I think back then the tools were, here's a paper advert coming out each week, and you had your cold calling, maybe a phone book, and maybe some past customers lists and sale agreements to go through and follow up. But it was very much so stayed, I found, the same for some time, maybe for the first 5 or 10 years before it really, the tools and what we use, the internet and the social media came along. But for, I think, the very first part of my career back then, I think the disciplines and what you learnt as a new person into the industry were some of the best you could ever get, because it taught you, back then it used to be 7 days a week for everybody, and there were no shortcuts, and it was a real industry where if you went to meet someone at 10 o'clock at night or early hours of the morning when travelled to a different region, you would do that to get a deal done. It was really personable. Mm-hmm. And those relationships, I think the relationships is what built really good dealerships back then, and still do now. But back then you didn't have all of the tools to be able to search across the country, and on social media all of a sudden you've seen a different video that leads you down a different path. And I think back then it was all about your area, your community. And if you wanted to buy another car and see what was outside of town, you actually jumped in your car and you went for a weekend, and you'd walk the streets in a different area. So it wasn't as easy to compare prices or know what's out there in the market. Whereas maybe you got a paper sent to you from a friend of an advert of a car or something like that, or a phone call. But I think the big shift I've seen is the change in the lifestyle now that people lead, maybe since COVID changed a little bit as well too. people looking at more the lifestyle in the industry, and how you go about your week, and the tools and how they're used. Now you see the marketing is next level. You'd never think back then that would be people doing all these humorous and funny videos to bring in the customers like you are today. We wouldn't be doing this here in a podcast, right. That's for sure.
Yeah. So what roles? Take me through the roles that you've taken. So you started off groomer, trying to sell some cars. Eventually you've said, hey, look, aligned with Shane at the car company. Where from there?
Yep. So it would have been approximately 2 to, I think, 3 years as an apprentice salesperson and learning off what we would call sales managers, so branch managers, and dealer principals. And we would often team up with a branch manager or other senior salespeople to learn different scenarios with customers, whether it be trade appraisals, whether it be negotiations with customers, whether it would be delivery and after sales, and how to deal with different situations. It could be around purely buddying up with the youngest salesperson to help them in their growth as well too. So I think a good 2 to 3 years in that sales role, what kind of makes you feel a bit more comfortable in your position. And we worked with business managers like yourself back in the day, and that was kind of like, I guess that was the really start of the finance and insurance industry combining with sales and the teams working together for the customer relationship and the dealership being the most profitable that they can. So that didn't used to be around. We didn't used to have everyone, a salesperson they sell the car, they get the car ready, they try and work their way through finance and insurance, and then they'll be doing the delivery and after sales a lot. So it became a lot more specialised after that. And that's when maybe 3-4 years down the track, when I became a sales manager, I was 20, I would have been 21 around there, 22. And I was probably a bit one of those times when you become a sales manager at that age, you got all these senior people around you that are looking at you and you feel a bit intimidated because you think, oh, why are they going to listen to me? I'm only such and such age. So it takes a bit of time working around senior people for them. You've got to really lead by your actions, because otherwise if you're not doing that, they just won't listen to you and they'll be off doing their own thing. So I found that quite tough. It was difficult leading people when they had more experience than you, and you're maybe the young cocky person.
That period, like, was there a length of time that it took, or something that you had to do to earn their respect? I guess. Did you earn their respect?
I'd say probably back then there'd be some I didn't earn the respect because maybe they were doing really good themselves in their role, and maybe thought, hey, you got a lot to learn, that sort of thing, and I did. And you think because you got that role and you're young, you think, I'm the bloody kingpin here. I'm away. I'm going to go great. But I think you just got to realise at that age you still got so much more to learn. And I think we went through some staff changes at that time, and I probably even was thrusted into it a bit younger than I needed to be, but it was kind of, we needed someone in that position. I think back then, actually, the phrase someone said to me was self-appointed manager. There was no one else to be manager, maybe. But I think it probably took a good 2-3 years before that role, it started to gel. And not only did you lead by your actions, but people started to follow you and believe in what you were trying to do. And then I think I heard the other day on another podcast, actually, it was that 8%, the 8% time of those conversations, the hard conversations. I think that's probably the hardest thing, having those at times with people in different groups when it's easier to talk with someone about positive and happy things, but when it's the truths or the harder conversations you don't like to have, when you do it in a way that it's constructive and people can see you're trying to do the best for the company. I think learning how to do that better is really important, because I think that's a big part of the leadership side of things.
Do you think you've grown into that compared to where you were?
Yeah, I think I'm still trying to improve on it and get better at it, but definitely been through a lot of years of a lot of different scenarios that have given me the more strength to deal with those situations. And I've found it hard to come with the grips that you're never going to please everybody, but that's just really part of any business. So I think that going home and realising that some people are not going to be happy and others are, that's probably the most difficult thing. But if you keep bringing it back to the one goal that it is the best thing for the company going forward, I think that's the most important one. So, yeah, I think from start-out manager to manager now would be quite different. And I think that's just growth and personality times through your life. You think slightly differently.
So you're sales manager now?
Yeah.
Where to from there?
Well, I actually had one quick stint, which you might remember, where I went over to Australia for a chicken farm.
That's pretty left field compared to what you were doing.
Yeah, I needed to have I was probably going through a little bit of burnout, and I maybe overworked myself, thinking that you could do a certain amount of days and hours without going to affect you, and it probably caught up on me a little bit.
Because how many days and hours were you actually putting in?
Back then, I used to go a roster where at one stage I was doing 12 days on, 2 days off, and then I'd just repeat that. But those days were pretty big, and back then you were probably also still burning the candle and partying lots as well too. So at one stage it got a little bit better. I think it went to 11 days on, 3 days off. So that was pretty good. But you back then I was in the mindset that work was absolutely everything, and there wasn't such a thing as balance. And then eventually, I think just you started to, I'd say, lose the enjoyment factor out of it, because you were maybe that fried and that stressed and trying to have everything so right, that I kind of lost that enjoyment factor, and I needed to leave and go away before I could come back and realise, actually, I do love this industry.
So how was it being a chicken farmer?
It was, parts of it were good, that you went to work, you had a hammer or a drill and you drove machinery, and then at the end of it, that was it, and you could switch off.
Yeah.
But to be honest, being somewhere in the middle of nowhere and the smell of a chicken farm and not knowing the people that you know back home and family and friends, it's not quite the same. So after that,
we've learned now the importance of family and friends. We've learned the importance of having balance and not burning out.
Yeah, you've got to go hard. We used to call it work hard, play hard. I would say definitely work hard. That's always got to be part of your regime. But you've got to have those days, even if it's for a couple of hours each week, where you step outside your normal day routine, and it might be a bike ride or the gym or whatever it's important to you, and your mind's just got to be able to switch off and not have that technology buzzing in front of you. And I feel like I step into a different world, and you forget about a lot of things, and then you come back a whole lot better person and ready to go again.
And you make smarter decisions when you come back. You actually get more work done by having that break, won't you?
Yeah, 100%. And you could kind of, I guess, still have had the busiest day, but as long as you got that time, and make it something that you really enjoy, not just something that someone says you should do. Because everybody's quite different. It's got to be something that suits your personality and what you love, and no matter what, because I find you make excuses not to do it, and you haven't had enough time, and you procrastinate. I think you've got to put that time as being really important, as just as important as being at work and going hard. You've got to place the importance on that time away so that you can actually be on peak performance. Yeah.
And I agree. And look, I've had to learn that myself as well, like you, working so hard.
You got to, number one, Hudson, getting into sport.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you've stepped away, you go on something completely different, chicken farming, new country, new job, new place. You realise that maybe it wasn't so bad. You come back. Where'd your career leave you from there?
When I got back, Drummy and I had been talking, and we'd been looking at the opportunity of coming back to the industry. I was still a question mark whether I was going to be, I knew I was going to be in sales, but I was still a question mark whether I was coming back to cars or not. I did miss the drive and thrill of it. So it took me probably a few months before I did step back into car sales with the car company. And it was probably, I had a little short stint in Wellington with my cousin's bed shop, Brownie's Mattress Direct. I was looking at doing something completely different within his company at one stage. Mm-hmm. And then it was probably lucky enough that I came back to Nelson, really, because then I ended up having an evening out after work once where I met my lovely wife, Wendy Brownie. So,
well, and talking about that, I know that she's actually sitting in the background.
Yes.
Are you there, Wendy?
Wendy, come on, Wendy. Yeah.
Am I up?
Yeah, you're in.
Okay.
So, yeah, Wendy Brownie, thanks for coming along. Now, of course, we're talking about Ben and his rise to where he is today, but I know he couldn't have done it without the support. Now, we've talked about him working so hard, and I know he actually still put some big hours. Would that be right?
Yes, very big hours.
Yeah.
Gone at 6 and home at, well, because he had to talk to you, he was home. But
so he'd talk to you more often.
He's home usually by 7:30 sometimes. Yeah. And then it doesn't stop there. We eat dinner and then he's on his computer till 10:30 most nights. Working by, because time zones and, well, I think he's working.
Yeah. I think so.
And then I guess we haven't quite discussed it yet, but he's also travelling for work as well, overseas, buying cars.
Yeah, off to Japan, which I had the experience of.
So my question for you is, Wendy, like how do you handle that if he's not there so often, or is that a good thing? I don't know.
You said it.
No, I'm, as Ben knows, I would really like to spend more time with him. I feel like his work colleagues definitely get more of him than I do. I get a couple of hours a day. I get every second weekend he's not working, but we do have amazing holidays. We make sure we book in holidays regularly, and when we're on holiday, we have the best time. So I just look forward to those times,
Yeah, we did actually have a stage years ago where I remember I was doing quite longer trots without taking those breaks. And then on one break, we made the call that when we were having a break, we were going to make sure we booked in or had something else to look forward to. So I think that's quite a good thing to do. If you can say, right, every 6 months or whatever it might be, there's something else that you're planning to look forward to. Yeah.
What are you looking forward to next?
Well,
how long have you got? We're going to do the Alps to Ocean bike trail in October.
Where else is that?
That starts at Mount Cook.
Yep.
And ends in Oamaru, is it? Oamaru?
Yeah. We've found the biking to be out in the fresh air on the trails. New Zealand's done so well with it. That's our thing we do together as well as hitting the golf ball, and Wayne's hitting a bit straighter than me. So
I love it. And of course, Wayne, you've been in business yourself, so you know what it's like. I know as like a real estate agent that's put in big hours as well. So you've been there and done that yourself, would I say?
Yes, with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Small world.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I loved, obviously, real estate. That was a fun time. But, yeah, getting back to Ben, it's all about Ben. So I think that he is just the hardest worker.
Mhm.
I haven't met anyone that works as hard as he does. And he's very driven and he's very even-tempered. Doesn't come home and get all cranky if he's had a bad day. He's just, he just is Ben all the time.
And I would say
She does say there's
assume that that's going to be the reason why you're where you are today. Would we all agree?
Yeah, he doesn't need anything. I mean, he does internalise things. I do know when he's stressed because he has little things that he does. Little, I won't tell you what they are. Anyway, I do know, and I'll say, what's up, or, don't talk about anything. But yeah, he's good at letting things go over his head, whereas I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
that's
was a
all about
question. Do you like some people come home and they're like, probably without trying to complain to their partners, they let out all the crap from the day.
Yeah.
How does it work with you guys? Like, do you discuss through topics or issues, or do you just keep all the bad stuff, Ben, and throw it out that door before you come home? How does it work?
No, we talk, like any other couple would. I mean, you have to talk about things in your day. I mean, I don't see him all day, so I need to talk about what he's been up to. And he always asks me, how was my day and what I've been up to every time he'll ring me on his way home. And so, how was your day? And, I don't know. It just works. It's just, I did work. We worked together for 3 years in Richmond at the Richmond branch when we had that. Mm-hmm. And I got thrown in the deep end as the business manager.
Yep.
And that was pretty scary. I'd end up in the toilets crying quite often.
Really?
Yes, because I was out of my depth. I'd never done that before. So I'd be freaking out. I'd be like, oh, my God, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, and then I'd come back out and they'd be none the wiser that I'd be panicking and think, no, I've got this, And
Big ups to you for pushing through.
Oh, yeah, Ben helped me with that. He was on to that.
She put on a brave face, that's for sure.
It was busy in Richmond. We had so much fun, though. It was an awesome time. I loved it. Yeah.
Which I think brings us to that next stage of your journey, Ben, which was ownership of Richmond. Is that right? The Richmond Yard?
Yeah, that's right. So that was the opportunity that came along when I come back from over in Australia from the chicken farming. And once the branch and the management side of things out there, the opportunity came up to head out there and lead the team out there, or start a new team, which we did. Mm-hmm. That was a branch which held around 70 vehicles on the site, and we had around 100, maybe 100 to 150 vehicles in stock at all times. And we had up to 5 people there working from that branch. And it started out selling around 20 to 25 units per month, which when we added a couple of people and systems started to change and stock, and that started to grow, and we really started to find what worked. We grew that to selling. Next step was 30 to 35, and then I was like, no, we can do better than this. We can do more. And next thing we were doing 40 to 50 vehicles per month, and then we had some months where we did 60 to 70 in a month, and that was turning over pretty much 100% of the stock. So we were consistently turning over 50% of the stock each month, which back then it was a time when it was really humming. And I was doing Japan buying trips approximately every 3 months. I'd be over there as well too. So I found that really exciting. My big passion was buying good quality vehicles in New Zealand or from overseas, which our team loved selling, and they liked good quality. And I got the buzz from seeing them enjoying what they sold. That was a real big part of it for me. And then, whenever you raise the bar to a certain level, it's like, right, how can we do this better than what we were? So, but yeah, I would have been 11 years in Richmond. And that was a time I found when lots of changes. There was lots of different tools, how we marketed cars,
So can I zone in? You said, hey, you were getting to one level, that 30th level, and then you sort of leveled it up again and again and again. In those steps, in those levels that you went through in that business, what do you think changed, or what do you think you did to actually level up each time? Was it purely mindset, no, we can do it? Or did you have to put systems in place to be able to do it? What do you think those changes and steps were?
I think with the management team, it was having the right people in the right places, and then once we had that, I think definitely the systems and the processes of the day-to-day running of the branch. It might be around the cost saving of running that branch, and a lot of which probably I didn't really do that well at the start, and was a big learning that I took away from working with Shane as well too, was all of the little things that a business expenses that tally up very quickly at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. And so learning that where we could where you could save $1 was actually making $1, and then also making margin out of something you sell is not a bad thing. So, for instance, there's no point being there and selling a huge amount of vehicles if we're not making some margin out of those units. So it was really important as a business learning, one, how we can save $1, how we can do things better, and not being afraid to make a margin out of the product that you do sell, which I believe every business should be able to do. Otherwise, it's not sustainable.
And to be fair, I see a lot of businesses and they don't have the margins there.
Yeah.
And they need those margins to even have a business.
Yeah, and there's overheads. I think every business can't. They've got to have you can't change them, and you can't really make them that better. And then there's some you can do without. And then it's about maximising every opportunity you can with the customer experience. And that's around, I think, what we do quite well and we work on hard is being a one-stop shop. So you can have the experience of coming in and finding the vehicle that you really like. You can finance the vehicle and insure it with us, and then you can drive away with the accessories that you need on your vehicle as well too. So I think, it's a little bit probably like, I guess, the McDonald's drive-through or any takeaway store is, would you like it to make it a large combo and that sort of thing. But Richmond was a huge learning for me because I was out at a branch. Although I had a management team, I was out at a branch on my own with our own team, and you were, in a way, competing with your other branches within the company as well too, mm-hmm. and other dealerships. You wanted to, every month, be the best you can or be better than them. So that kind of was a big driving force for me. I didn't want to be out there in Richmond and probably a huge, big catchment area and not be doing well. I was probably I've always had, and I know it's good to not do well at times and fail and learn from things, but I always had the fear of failure in me. So I think that's probably what drives me to work harder as hard as I can, is that I'm always worried about not doing well, if that sort of makes sense in a way.
I mean, like business, I'd see it as a game, just like tennis.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to win.
Yeah. I probably took it to a little bit more of an extra length when, like Wen's talked about before, she could tell little things when I maybe was a little bit stressed or not well. I went through a phase where I was overthinking every little aspect of the day. I was probably treating it like going to a bloody World Cup final or something, and really I was just going to work and doing my job. But I was getting overworked up and stressed out to the point that I was pretty much making myself ill in the mornings before I went to work, and Wens could hear me coughing in the shower while I was getting ready. And then once I got started and the day was away, I was fine. But that time in the morning, I was already stressed out, and that's not although I think having nerves and being your senses heightened is good for anything in sport and business and treating it like it is serious. But I was probably taken to the next level where I was overthinking everything too much, and you need to have a balance.
So how long did it take you to learn maybe that you were working too hard, making yourself sick? How long did it take you to realise that maybe this is not the best way forward?
I did go and see a doctor and had a couple of appointments trying to work out if it was something else health-wise that was making me ill, whether it be food or my diet. And so I had those tests done, and then it really just come back to, they had even said, hey, we think you're stressed out and this is coming on from your own personal workspace. So I reckon it lasted a bit longer than I wanted to. Probably went for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
So it was a long time. And after I got to a stage where I think we were hitting pretty consistent results, and maybe just the experience that I'd had, a lot of the bigger things that used to worry me, I just started to let them go over my shoulder. And probably a lot of those things were really small, and I needed to let them go and then just concentrate on the core things in a day, but not try to have them all done before 10 a.m. And then I've got this trait where I cannot finish a day or get to the end of the day without pretty much most of my email inbox or a lot of my jobs not ticked off. So I'll go through and make sure I do that before, preparing for the next day. Mm-hmm. So I really admire people in business that can actually switch off. I think that's probably one of my traits that I really like to work on a lot better, whether you're at work or you're going away on holiday. A lot of people can do that quite well, where I'm terrible at it.
And saying that, it sounds like you have leveled up.
Yeah.
From where you were.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so we've made the yard a success. You've gone through self-inflicted sickness. You worked so hard.
Yeah.
We've figured that out. We've learned. We've risen above it. And maybe is this kind of like the last and final step and brings us to where you are today? Would that be right?
Yeah. That 11 years out at the Richmond branch was really good for my growth. I definitely, by all means, didn't do everything the way you possibly should do it as a business. I failed lots. I did well in some areas, and that's probably what got me to being able to be in the position I am today now with my business partner. And between Drummy and the people around him in management as well too, I got to learn some things that I wouldn't be able to do if I was on my own and out trying to run a dealership without that help. Because with all Shane's experience that he'd had in business, he was able to pass that on, and I wasn't having to, let's say, have a massive failure and then start from square one, which could easily happen in lots of ways. But yeah, I think that 11 years, that definitely was where it got to the next position, where I had learnt quite a lot of the different areas of the business, whether it be sales, team leadership, buying vehicles, how a business, the costings and how it runs and how it washes up at the end of the year. And then I think one thing I never used to do that well, which I find I'm getting better at, is letting go of certain areas and saying to we want to go here with some staff. This is what we want to do. This is when we would like to have it done by, but I'm going to let you decide how we get there. I would always probably hold on to tasks and not let them go, where I think it's really important to let people have some control of what they're doing and how they're doing it, as opposed to I'm going to control every aspect of this and how we're doing it. I don't think you can expand or grow without letting go. So that was the biggest step when I went to head office in coming up 5 years ago now. where I bought into the rest of the company with Shane when we had the 3 branches in town. So I've been there for the last 5 years, and been really enjoying it. Yeah.
So you guys have built up a brand new car yard selling BYD, the newest and latest and greatest electric vehicles. You've got the other yard that you've had. Just to give us a sense of size as to where you're at, how many cars do you tend to have in stock? How many do you tend to turn over in approximates now?
Yeah, so we approximately hold anywhere around 400 vehicles in stock, and that's across our 3 branches. And one branch is at head office, where it's always been on Rutherford Street. That holds probably over around 130, 140 vehicles on site. The BYD branch, it's got the brand new beautiful showroom that's been built, as well as used cars on site, and that would hold approximately 70 vehicles, as well as the Haven Road branch that's got sort of the market value for money under $15,000, and that's similar. It holds around 70 vehicles as well too. And then within that, Shane and Phil Eagle have got the car company automotive, the workshop, which is a big part of running any dealership. You've got the backup support of the service department to look after our customers as well. And then the finance and insurance team, the business managers that look after our customers around finance and insurance, and making sure that they can afford a vehicle and get all the support they need to make a decision. And then we've got management and admin and marketing also handled from our head office branch at Rutherford Street. So it's now, with what we have got now is, I would say, people specialised in their area and all helping the team together to get the best result, as opposed to back when I started, where you were all trying to do everything, but you would definitely not master everything.
Hey, along the way, you've mentioned that you had obviously your father to learn from. You had sales managers to learn from. You've been in the deep end trying to just figure it out alone. But you've also had the mentorship from drumming Shane along the way. How important would you say mentors or coaches or anyone above you, how important is that through your career or through learning business?
Yeah, no, it's massively important. And I would say to probably anyone, to not necessarily just within your business and management within your team, is to reach outside of that to other industries, people that have either done well or not done well, and learn from their experiences as well. It doesn't have to be in your industry. It can be other industries, but they've gone through growth patterns and the ups and downs of it. And I would also relate it very much to in sport with children growing up and sports teams, whether it be a team or on your own in individual sports. I think you learn a lot of all of the little 1%er consistencies and disciplines that it takes to do well in a sporting environment or a business environment. The mentors and the coaching that you get, it keeps you in check. And you don't sit back and relax. It keeps you honest, is what I would say. And you do need to get punched every now and then, not physically, but when you made mistakes, and own the mistakes and learn from them, because we're constantly making them all the time, I think.
Hey, look, I love what you've said about, just that 1%, the consistency of doing it. And you're certainly proven yourself that just being solid and consistent that has taken you right throughout your career to, I would call, a success. Would you class yourself as a success today?
I don't know what... I'm still trying to work out what you class success. Because I think there's so many different variations to it. But I still don't know how you can get going, get started, and get to a certain level without be maybe a little bit selfish and going without things that maybe your mates and that were doing, or
Those sacrifices.
sacrifices. That's the word I was looking for. I think there's certain things that you just have to sacrifice when you get going in business or maybe want to improve on things you're doing, because you just need that time to work on it. And then from there, yes, the success. I think I'm proud of where I've managed to get to, and I'm probably just more proud of the work ethic that I grew up with, and I carried that on. And whether I've been successful, other people can judge on that. But probably success for me now is actually being able to have a balance of for your mental health, and being able to enjoy all parts of your life, whether it be work and outside work. It's hugely important. Yeah.
So I guess final question, do you think you've actually received, do you think you have got that balance now, or do you believe you still need a little while to work on it?
I still need more work on it. Yeah, need more work, but I'm getting pretty close to it, I think. I think things along the way, along your journey, whether it's big lows or big highs, it's probably only over time that it makes you realise that you need that to be sustainable. I admire people that can switch in and out of work mode outside of it. I think that's a real. If you can learn how to do that, give me a call.
Always working on it, like yourself.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben, it's really been a pleasure, and also a big shout out to Wendy for, chiming in as well.
Yes.
Is she there as well still?
Oh, thanks, Mitch. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, you too, guys. So it's always been too long, but we need to make sure that we do catch up fairly soon, try and make it happen. Look, this was Let's Talk Business, and we've certainly done that. The business of Ben Brownie, the car company, Shane Drummond, with yourself, and your whole entire team, including your family. So cheers, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us. Cheers, mate. That was good. Cheers, mate.
Let's talk small business. I appreciate you tuning in. If you got value, hit subscribe, like, or drop a comment. It spreads the word and might just help another legend get their breakthrough.